That's not good at all. Oh boy. Let's just see what happens. So, okay, this is in my top five. This movie. Um, I think that's it. I can't say the names because most of the actors are India or from India, Indian, not Native American Indian, but um, like Asian Indian over there. So, the name of the movie is Life of Pi. Came out in 2012. Now, I've watched this movie several times and seen how it's in my top five. I don't see how I could even uh, even forget anything. Now, ooh, sorry about that. I'm a little tired. It's just a great story. I mean, I could sum it all up. It's the story of a young man who uh, rather than live in the horror that he went through, rather than relive the horror he went through surviving a shipwreck, um, he decides to put a colorful twist on it. But in this movie, they tell his life story basically. They tell his life story basically. Story of his first love, and it's it's a juvenile type of love, but you feel so strongly about an individual when you're what when you're a teenager and your hormones are just starting to crank up. You feel so strongly about the you feel so strongly about that other person that you're involved with at that age. Um, but they don't. It's not portrayed as such in the movie. It's portrayed as a uh, I wonder how should I phrase this more. It's portrayed not as, oh, I really like her. It's not. It's not juvenile. It's not goofy and unbelievable. Not believable at least. It's more of a genuine love. Like, it's quiet. A little bit of stalking in there too, just a little bit, but it's it's more of a genuine love. I feel like it's portrayed between him two. Of course, that love has to be broken. There's no way that something that there's no way that a movie would I shouldn't say movie. There's no way that writers would allow uh, a love that seems to be that pure to flourish. Some movies they do, this one they didn't. But in any way, that's going on while his family's having a bit of financial burden. I mean, they have a financial burden because they run a zoo in India. So his father decides to sell the land on the zoo, the land that the zoo is on, and all the animals in England. Now, a lot of Indians migrate to England, which I think they can. I think it was like still a colony or something like that. That's real life stuff that I really don't know too much about. But anyway, they decided to do this for a better life because hey, no electricity, really no running water, dirt roads. Education isn't the best. You pretty much just got to find a way to make a living. And he's like, hey, how about we do this? It's a big move. It's a really scary proposition. We sell everything we own and move to another continent. I hear the voices. I know it. I hear the voices of people saying, "Hey, why would you do that? That's no way to do that." But I feel like, especially as Americans, we don't tend to think like that because we have so many luxuries, seeing how as this is a first world country. Now, maybe I'm jumping around a little bit, but at any rate, on the trip, the ship, I forget what happened. They hit bad weather or something like that, but the ship winds up sinking, and uh it's Pi, or that's his name. It's Pi, his mother, a younger passenger on the ship, and the chef. So it's only four people in the in the life raft. Now, what is he? He turns his mother into a monkey. He turns the young ship. He turns the young ship hand into a zebra, and the he turns the chef into a lion. And of course, he stays himself because he has to recount the story for the lawyers or the people that own the ship. Like people that own the ship have to figure out. He's the only survivor, so they have to figure out some type of story. So I'm assuming as far as payment goes. I mean, he deserves like he. Let alone the animals. He lost his entire family. He lost his entire family and almost died. But money's probably the last thing he's thinking about. Like I just said, he lost his entire family. Um, Jesus. And the real story versus the story that he chooses to uh, to speak to speak out loud or to put out in the atmosphere is colorful and heartfelt in some ways. It's less emotional, at least when I'm watching it compared to the real story. Real story is the chef. What is the chef kills his mother? The chef kills and eats the ship hand, and it's just him and the chef get stuck, and somehow there's some type of tussle or something like that. The chef winds up. I think he winds up killing the chef, or the chef winds up dying. I'm not 100%. And like I said, he almost dies. So that's a horrific. That's a pretty rough story, dude. And he decides to change these characters to animals and to paint a lighter picture, if you will. So, and visually, it's visually this movie is it knocks it out the park. I mean, there's some scenes in this movie that I have you just like, wow. Now I wouldn't say it's the most beautiful movie ever, but to me, it wins on setting, it wins on story, and acting. It wins on acting because it tells the life story of this kid, you know, from all ages and his struggle. And part of the uh, part of the beauty of this movie is that he's named Pi, and of course, math is pi is what is this 3.14 something or other if I can remember correctly. It's just a number that you kind of have to memorize if you want to do math at a certain level. Whatever. So you, there's just little gems in this movie. The movie in itself is a gem. I probably should have made this a. I probably should have gave this a spotlight, but I felt like it just needed to get out there today because I really this is my top five. This movie's in my top five. It's one of the best movies I've ever seen. I can watch it over and over again, and it's just for me. I think the reason I like this movie so much is not necessarily the details. This one breaks the mold on that. It's um, the overall story and the main character's acceptance of what happened. Even though he decides not to speak the truth uh, the whole time, he decides to change it a little bit to fit something he's more comfortable with, maybe to ease the pain, I guess. I don't know. I don't know where it's coming from. So I've never been through anything like that. But I just think the overall story gets me emotional. I really like it. I mean, I didn't cry or anything, but I like the movie. Um, there's just too many gems in this movie to even name. I really enjoyed this movie the first time I saw it. I kind of didn't think I wouldn't say I didn't think too much of it, but I was like I'll give it a shot, and I wound up watching. I think you know what? I think I actually paid like $5 or $7 for it at Walmart. I used to I used to get DVDs like left and right. Anybody know what those are? Those are before Blu-rays and HD DVD, all that good jazz. This was right after VHS tapes, if you know what those are. And I even give you a gold star if you know what Betamax is. And I give you a gold star and a cookie if you know what a laser disc is. uh, but There's probably something else I'm missing too. The home projectors. Yeah, but you know, uh, I used to on my day I had like 2 days off. I had split days off from work, so I would go to Berkeley on Sundays, and I would go to I would hit up there's just two places that sell DVDs. It's one is Rasputin, and the other one is Amoeba. I would go there and hit both of those up, and just I would come back every Sunday with like, oh man, I don't know, like 4 or 5 DVDs or something like that, and I didn't do it for that long, so I probably didn't even have 100 DVDs. I probably only had my collection was probably less than 50 because I didn't do it that long. But overall, it was just an experience of doing that. And when I would go shopping, if there was something interesting at Walmart, I would get that too because they had a lot of those double feature type things where one side was one movie, the other side was another movie, where there was 2 discs inside one box, and it'd be $5 or $7 or something like that. But that's where I picked this movie up at, and decided to give it a chance, and fell in love with it. I know this movie has a lot to do with love, but I think it just follows that philosophy of letting things wash over you. You can't get too you can't put too much into events that happen in your life. You can't get roped into to negative things, or even overly or lean too hard on positive things. You kind of have to go with the flow. And I think this movie does a great job of portraying that. Maybe I'm getting it wrong, but that's what I get from it. That's my personal opinion of the movie, along with the beautiful shots, the little gems in there, like him actually writing out Pi in completion. The initial love story, the change of the humans to animals, and there's certain shots and scenes that portray these animals and his experience adrift for however many days he was. In the end, to see him in his home being interviewed by this reporter, uh, he has a wife, and I think he has a kid by this time, and he's like completely he's completely at ease with what he's completely at ease with what happened, even though it happened a long time ago for this particular character. It's still something that would be very hard to get over because he lost his whole family. But top 5. I don't really need to say anything more about this movie. It's Life of Pi.